Hi my dear friends, my name is Hussein Mashayikhi and I'm back with another video from our Unreal Engine course for architecture. After you have finished installing Unreal Engine, you will get a window called Unreal Project Browser that looks something like this window. Here in this window we can determine where our projects going to head towards. For example, we can have gaming projects, architecture related projects, or motion graphic types of projects, any type of project that we would like. And this window, this initial window is gonna help us navigate better for that purpose. We can add or delete some of these items that you can see on the left corner, and if we start with the recent projects, we can go through some of the projects that we have worked on previously, our own projects, and we can load them. Right now this page will likely be empty for you, but later on it will be filled with projects. This project location address that you see right here is the location that you decide to choose to save your projects at. So for example, if you want to save your projects on a certain drive, you should just choose a correct location for that drive to save your projects. And if you change that path, you will have saves at different locations and you will not find all of them. This filter projects bar or field will help you search for your projects, and if you go to this button, you can put this on alphabetical order or version order, and these items will help you better navigate finding your project. You also have another option called most recently used, which will change the order of your saved projects. Alright, the next item that we have here is called games, which will provide you with some very useful templates that you can use for your games. Now, if you remember correctly, in the previous session when we were installing Unreal Engine, we had this option that we checked called templates, and that installed some templates for us. If you had not checked that option called templates, you would not have these games, films, and architecture options. Some of these options will also be used in architecture and for other purposes. For example, blank, first person, and third person, top down. For example, top down is also used for is mainly used for strategic games, and vehicle, AR and VR. Some of them will be used for other purposes other than games, and we will get to them later on. Now, to start a simple project, I would choose blank, for example, and then go to project location, and then choose a desired location to save my project at, and I can just here navigate a certain folder that I would like. And please do not make nested folders into each other. Just use a simple folder. After you select that folder and you have your desired location, you have project name. Here you can choose a name for your project, and keep in mind that you cannot have spaces in that name. Now, if I use a space, for example, after my project, I get this error, but you can use underscores instead. So I use an underscore here and put 1, for example, my project 1. And here I'm not gonna start interfering with or changing project defaults, these options, these settings that we have here. Instead, I'm gonna show you what happens to this folder, our project folder, after we create a simple project. So if we go to our project folder, my project 1, we have config, content, and a few other folders, and each would have their own subfolders as well, and maps, for example, textures. And if I click on this icon My Project, which is Unreal Engine project extension type, we can open our project. So this is another way of opening our projects. We can navigate directly to their folder and double click on that icon. Now this is what a blank file looks like. I'm gonna close it for now, go back to Unreal Engine. I'm gonna start Unreal Engine again and wait for my project browser window to load so that we can go through some of the other items that we have on that page. Alright, so if you go back to our games and look at project details, the first binary option that we get is Blueprint and C++. We're gonna use blueprints for our projects because they are infinitely easier, but if you put this on C++, which is a programming language, every time that you want to open a door, for example, in your project or do something interactive, you will have to code that, and we don't want that. So we're gonna put this on Blueprint because, as I said, they are very easy, and we're gonna learn how to work with them, and they're gonna be enough for what we intend to do in our architectural projects. Now, the next item we have is target platform, which for our purposes is mostly desktop. It can be mobile and other options, but we're gonna focus on desktop applications. Next, we have quality presets, which we have maximum and scalable as options. If we choose maximum, it's gonna preserve the maximum quality for our project. But if we have a simple project, or we are working on a, for example, 2D mobile application project, we can use a scalable, which is not, I don't advise you to do that right now. So we choose maximum. And next we have starter content, which is already checked for us. If you remember, when we previously opened our blank project, we had a couple of chairs and a table. This starter content refers to those, and if we uncheck it and create another blank file or blank project, this one is called My Project, we're gonna see that this time, because we unchecked that starter content, we're not gonna have that table and 2 chairs. So this is what we get with a blank file without the starter content. And all we have here is this valley, these mountains, and a plain, basically. So again, I open Unreal Engine, and we will go through the next items that we have to discuss. I think the next one is ray tracing, and it's a very important topic because there are some misconceptions about ray tracing. So basically, ray tracing is the ability to trace rays of light that will enhance the quality of our lighting and the overall quality of our works immensely. So should we enable this item or not? Before I answer that question, let's just go to my graphic card. Let's see what I have. So if I go to Device Manager here, okay, if I go to Device Manager and Display Adapter, you can see that I have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070. So this is a GPU which is an RTX series. It does ray tracing for me, and basically the GPUs that have been made using the ray tracing technology are equipped with certain technology that would help us do ray tracing easily. So when my system is processing reflections, refractions, and lighting in my scenes, this RTX GPU would help a lot. So if you have an RTX card, it's a no-brainer, check that option. Now, if you have a GPU from the GTX series, which was the previous series before RTX, for example, 1060, which was another GPU that I had previously, you can still use Unreal Engine and you can achieve everything, but it would be better if you had this ray tracing option unchecked. This one, ray tracing. If you leave it unchecked, if you have a card that is not an RTX, it would be better. Now, if you have an older GPU from, for example, GT series, which is not even a GTX, so in that case, I would advise you to use Unreal Engine 4, which is basically, you can do a lot of things with that too. It's 20 to 25% different from Unreal Engine 5, but it's still a viable option for you because your GPU is not going to handle some of the options, for example, even lumen lighting in Unreal Engine 5. Now, so this ray tracing option, if you do not have an RTX card, it's going to be useless, and it will have a performance load on your system. So if you have an RTX card, check it. If you don't, please uncheck this option. Now, another important point that I wanted to go over is that, remember in the first session, I showcased 2 projects to you, and I even showed you the final files, the extension of files, and what we actually give the clients to be able to use and go to that project. So if I choose ray tracing in my project and I give a final project file to my client with ray tracing, if that client does not have ray tracing on their system, they would not be able to use it. But don't worry, because most people today have RTX graphic cards on their system, and even if they don't, we have other options. For example, we can just make a very high quality video and give a high quality video to our clients instead of that project file. So we have options, and don't worry about it, we will go through them in our course. Now let me show you something interesting. So right now we are in games and we have these default project defaults, one of which is ray tracing, and we can disable or enable ray tracing. If we go to architecture blank files, we do not have the same project defaults, and we do not have the option to disable ray tracing because it has been already enabled for us. And if we want to disable it, we have to actually go to the blank file and do it from there, and I will show you what I mean. So for games, if we had these options, ray tracing and starter content, but for architecture we do not have these options. And for games, for example, ray tracing is disabled by default because you can be developing a game for a mobile or other applications than desktop applications, and so by default ray tracing is disabled, and you can enable it here. So I'm gonna uncheck this for now. I showed you what a blank file looks like. Let's go to the next option, which is called first person. Now we're gonna be working with first person a lot in our own projects because when we have an architecture project, we're gonna let the client go through that project and walk through different parts of our buildings. So let me just show you what it looks like, the template, the actual first person template, and then we talk about it more. All right, now if I go to my first person template and if I click on this play button here, we have some game testing default options. For example, we have a gun that we can grab, and if we use WASD, we can move around and even shoot these boxes with our mouse clicks. So, and if I push the escape button, I get out of that mode. So these are basically some simple mechanics that we can just see what a first person view would look like and experience first person view so that we can better use it or implement it in our own projects. Now what you can do here is to basically import your own projects and textures and characters and make your first person game, which is totally out of the scope of this course, but maybe a fun project to pursue. So if you go to file and new project again, we go to third person, and let's create a template for third person and see what that looks like. I'm going to cover these items or options one by one so that you can be familiar with them, and if you hear someone use them, you know what they mean and what they look like in our workspace. So in third person template, if we hit play, we can see our character. This is our default character that we can use. If we push a space on the keyboard, we can jump, And I'm sure you can think of a lot of games that utilize third-person view. So if we go to File and New Project again, the next item we have is top-down. Like I said, it's you've probably seen it used in strategic games. So if we push play, if we get this top-down view, and again with the same WSAD keys, we can move around, interact with some of the objects, for example this box, move it around. And this type of view is also used for point and click games, which are also popular. Let's go back to our new project window. Now each one of these little projects take up some space on your hard drive. For example, if we look at some of these projects that we just created, these blank projects, you can see that it already has taken up 600 megabytes of size on our hard disk. Let me show you another one. For example, this one, 1 gigabytes of data, and this one, 1 gigabyte again. So make sure that you do not have any useless blank files or unused projects saved. Okay, so the next one is called vehicle. Let's test that out and see what that template looks like. So if we click on create, we have to wait a couple of seconds for that to load, and then we will get to see what the vehicle template looks like. Now again, we are not going to directly work with these blank files. For example, vehicle, maybe top down, or even third person, but it's still nice to know a little bit about them and know what they actually look like. So we have to wait a couple of more seconds until this is loaded, and this is what we get: a very basic track race. And if I hit play, click on play, I get this car, and then I can just use the same keyboard buttons that I talked about, WSAD, to just move around. And if we were interested in making a vehicle game, we could have changed this car into a car that we desired, make our own car or even cars, and maybe even interfere with some of the physics components of this map. But that's again out of the scope of this project. We can move on to architecture blanks and start talking about that. But before we do that, please take note that in the game blanks we have these clouds that are slightly moving, and we have the sky, and basically they are present in the default template. So let's just go to file and new project and start going through architecture blanks. So let me create a simple blank in architecture and wait for that to load up and see what that looks like. Okay, this is what we get when we create an architecture blank. And the first thing that I want to show you is how to disable ray tracing if you do not have an RTX card. So for that, you gotta go to this top left corner, go to edit, and then project setting. Okay, and I can even have this as a separate tab. So let me just make this into another window. I have the main tab, and I can just add this tab to it, put it here. So I have the main tab and the project setting tab, which is a very useful tab to have up there. Now the fastest way to do it is to go to the search box and search for ray tracing or ray NT, and you get this option here, use hardware ray tracing, and you can just disable it. And I even have these options down below, for example, ray tracing for shadows, skylight, and so if I just keep disabling these things one by one, the main thing is going to be disabled. But if I just disable use hardware ray tracing, it's going to disable hardware ray tracing altogether. And if I do that, it will give me a message that tells me to restart the project. For that to take effect, I can choose to restart it now or later. So I choose restart now and wait for it to load again. And this time I'm not gonna be using ray tracing for my project. And you may not notice a difference right away right now because we do not have anything in our scene. But frankly, it's not that big of a bummer if you don't have an RTX card, and you shouldn't worry about it because you can achieve the quality that we had in the two projects that I showcased to you in the first session. So if we go to our project setting, we talked about hardware ray tracing, and we're going to go through a lot of these options here, and we're going to go through them one by one. But for now, let me just close this project setting tab, and let's start getting more familiar with our viewport and this working space that we have in Unreal. We have the classic menu bar with file, edit window, and some other items. Now, among these options in this menu bar, build is one of the most important ones. We're going to work with this build top-down menu and also window a lot, and I will tell you all about it in the later sessions. For now, we have this other bar. We have save, which is basically how we save our project. It can be a little complicated at times, but don't worry about it. We're going to go through it. We have select mode. If we, for example, choose landscape, we have the landscape mode. If we go to foliage, we get some plantation options, and we can just use and implement plants in our work and project. And it can be as simply as just dragging and dropping some foliage into our work. Now, we're not going to go through all of these objects in detail. For example, modeling is another useful one. And if, for example, we have a file, an object that we have imported into Unreal, and the unwrap has some problems, we can use auto unwrap that we have here, and we can just correct that problem with unwrapping using this tool that Unreal has provided us here. And let me do a quick plug. If you're a CG artist and if you're interested to learn unwrapping, we have a great unwrapping course, and you can check that out, and you can just finish that course in a week. All right, back to this modeling page. You can also decrease the number of meshes or polygons in an object. You have different options to manipulate the object that you import into Unreal. All right, I just put this on select mode again, and let's just move on to the next items that we're going to explore. Okay, now with this little button here, I can just add anything that I want to my scene very quickly. For example, a camera, an object, anything. Let me just put a cube real quick. So I have to go to shapes and select cube and just drag it over here. And it's a very useful button that we're going to use a lot later on. So the next button is used for our blueprints. So whenever we want to have a blueprint, for example, for opening a door, we use that one. Let me just quickly show you what I mean. So if I open a project real quick, for example, let me just open this one and show you what I mean by what blueprints do and how we can use that button. Now, if you get really good at making blueprints, you can even sell them on different marketplaces, and that's a really profitable thing to do. Let me open up a level that I want. And don't worry about the term level and anything else that you see right here. We're gonna go through all of them. So if I hit play here, and if I try to go through this door, it automatically is opened and closed. And the same with the sliding door as well. It opens and closes after I'm done going through it. I have another door here. Okay, let me click close. It is opened automatically. And if I go through it, again, it gets closed. So this is all done with the help of blueprints. All right, so let's close this project. So if I go to recent projects, this is called my project 6. See, it's here as well. And I think the previous one was called project 5. So let's open that one and see what else we have to explore. Okay, we're going to wait a couple of seconds, and there. All right, this is our blank architecture file. So this was the button that was dealing with the blueprints. The next one is for working with sequences. For example, I can add a camera to my project and I can have it move in a certain way in my project, and I can save it and use it in other projects as well. The next button, this play button here, is also called game mode, and we have the game mode in other places. For example, if you go to edit and project setting, Under maps and modes, we also have this game mode here. And we have some options here. For example, when we hit play, we can determine whether it's in a first person or third person view and other stuff as well. So let's go back to our blank file and see what else we have left here on this bar. So we have platforms, and here we can determine what type of platform our output would be made for. For example, we have Android, we have iOS, Windows, and here we can basically make our project into a package for a certain platform, and we also basically have all the platforms available to us. Let's just close that and go to the top right corner setting. I'm not going to go through all of these items, but one of the most important ones that I'm going to explain right now is called engine scalability setting. And for quality, we have low, medium, high, epic, and cinematic, and also auto. If you have a low-end system, you should put these on low or medium. So let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to open another project. So if I go to open project, let me see what I have here. Let's just find a suitable project for this part. All right, I'm going to open up this one, wait for it to load. This project is one that I modeled after the first project from Mustafa that I showed you in the first session. Let's just, let me just click on these. Don't worry about these items. I'm going to explain them later on. And let me just find a proper level to show you something. Let's just see what levels I have here. I'm going to select proper level here. Let me find it real quick. Is it this one? Let's just see. No, let me just choose lumen here. The level is called lumen, and open that up. And now if I go to the top right corner and on setting and put this quality on low, you can see that everything is in low quality and compared with the first showcase that we had. Right now, if you have a low-end system, it's a good option to put this on low and work on your project until you are satisfied with it, and at the end you can just scale the quality to a higher mode. For example, medium, high, and maybe epic, and even cinematic. So basically, let me just get rid of some of these lines here. I'm gonna uncheck this grid. All right, and if I zoom in, you can see that right now, same scene, but a lot higher quality. And now with this mode selected, it's harder for us to navigate throughout our project and work on it. So it's a very useful tool or a trick to put this on lower qualities for us to be able to work on the project more easily, and at the end, when we are happy with the project, we can scale it into a higher quality. And this is just a test project that I have here. It's not even a finished one. And so basically the point is, whenever you are experiencing lag in your performance, put this on low and work on your project until it's nearly finished, and then you can just scale the shadows, illumination, and everything back to a higher quality. Now let me show you something. On low, we do not have any proper shadows, but if I go to setting and put this scalability setting on medium and high, you can see that my shadows will improve. All right, let's go back to the project that we were working on, project 6, and continue exploring the options and items that we had. Okay. All right, so we kind of got familiar with some of these items, and the next list of items, these ones that I'm highlighting with the mouse, are going to be worked on in the next session. For example, we can choose a different camera speed, we can choose what to be shown on the viewport and what not to be shown there. We can disable lights, we can have a wireframe view, we can change the angles, and we can just do many things here. I can, for example, change the field of view like this, and basically we will learn more about them in the next session. But for now, what I want to talk to you about is this right sidebar that I have here, these items. So for some of you, these may be placed here, for some of you not. I'm gonna manually close down these items, these sidebar items, so that we can just add them ourselves. And we can add the ones that are most frequently used. So basically all the menus that you just saw me close are put there and closed by this window tab. So for example, we have outliner open left. So let's see where that is placed. I think it's on the sides, hiding. All right, so let me just close that as well. Okay, let me just close it. And right now you can see that it's unchecked. So if I click on it, it's put back there again, and I can just select anything that I want, like this outliner option, and have it be there. I can even hide it, and now it doesn't even have a tab. And if I just want to have it on a tab, I can just click on this blue little item here, and again I have it as a tab. And if I close it completely, I can just go to window and click on it again. Another option that I have is when I right click on it, I have dock to sidebar. So if I choose that, you can see that it's now docked into my right sidebar. And anytime that I hover my mouse over it, it will be present, and then it will hide back. If I have to work with it a lot, I can just pin it with this button and unpin it again after I'm done working with it. And if you wanted to undock this from the sidebar, you can just simply click on it and go to this right corner, right click, and choose undock from sidebar, and have it at the side. And you can just change the size, even change the placement, put it at the bottom left corner, and I usually put this on the right side and have it hidden. Now, what is outliner? It's basically a complete list of everything you have present at your scene. For example, we have here a camera, we have a fog, a floor, and some other items. So everything we have here in our scene, it's listed here, and we can choose to have them in our view or not. And we do this by toggling this eye button here. So again, I'm not going to go into details just yet, but outliner gives us a complete list of everything that we have in our scene. All right, so let me just close this outliner, or dock it to the sidebar. Okay, so if I go to window, the next useful item is called details, and it's so useful that we have 4 of them. We have details 1, 2, 4. So a lot of people who are working with multiple monitors dedicate one of the monitors to details. Let me just show you how that would work. So they would have this detail window here. They would have the outliner undocked, and probably, you know, under it, on the somewhere here, and they have their settings and these types of tabs on one monitor. And if you have that luxury, you can do the same thing. So let me just close these for a second, and let me just have the outliner back to the sidebar. Let me just put it to the side, dock it to the right side. All right. Now, the details panel gives you the details for any object that you select on your scene. So for example, if you select the fog, okay, you can see the details here. If I select the sun and sky, you can also see the details on the right panel. So everything that we choose in our scene, we can see the complete list of details here. And if I click on this gear here, I can have all these options collapsed or uncollapsed, and it's a feature that I can use. All right, later on, we will work with a lot of these options in the details. I can even have favorites among them. I can choose the ones that I want to work with the most, and I can right click on them and have them as favorites, add to favorites. So instead of going through a list of these details, I always have them at the top. So let me choose another one, for example, this one, add to favorites, and you can see that I can easily access them at the top. And you can also choose the subsection that you want to work at, for example, level of detail, and anything that you want. And if you just put it on all at the right corner, everything will be displayed to you. So if you know what you want to look for, you can choose these subsections to help you get there faster. And sometimes we have an object in our scene which is comprised of a list of elements. For example, this sun and sky, it has scene, it has a skylight, and each one of these items has a list of its own details. For example, sky, directional light, skylight, you can see each one has its own set of details. And finally, we have the sun and sky, which is comprised of all these elements. And let me just show you something else. So if I go back to this object, for example, sun and sky, I also have this option, edit in blueprint. And if I click on it, I will be taken into another tab or a window like this. And here you can see all these blueprints, which you will learn all about in the next sessions. All right, another interesting thing is this star sign in the right corner. So if we toggle it off, you will not see the favorites anymore. But if you have it on, you can see the favorites that you chose to be shown at the top. And lastly, we have this search box or field, which is a very useful tool for us. In different stages of our work, we can search for different options and we can find them very quickly. For example, in post-processing that we will work on later on, we have this option called infinite extent, which is a very useful one, and we can just easily find it by putting in the first few letters of the keyword. So we have the add button here, which is not used that much. So let me just unpin this and close this tab and move on to the next items to explore. So if we go back to the window, another useful option is called place actors. And if I click on it, you can see it on the left. We have quick access to the objects that we have in the scene. For example, if I add a cube, maybe a sphere, and we have the same options here under shapes. For example, if I select shapes, we can add cubes, spheres, cylinders, planes, and basically the same list of items. And basically it does the same thing for me that I can do with that button. And the difference here is that I also have a search field, and I can use that for the items that I want. Now this plus button here, okay, this one is a very useful one, and it also has an item called all classes. If we go to all classes, we can see everything that can be added to our scene. And you can also use the keyboard and search for what you want here. For example, if you type cube, you'll get a cube and you can just drag it and add it to your scene. All right, now we have this clock looking button called recently placed, and this shows us the list of items that we recently used. For example, if I add a directional light, you can see that it will top our list. Okay, so let me just dock this to the side, to the left side. Okay, I docked the place actors to the left, usually in my workplace, and I have details and outliner docked to the right. Now let's talk about something very, very important, and that is content browser. Now every object, every texture, every map that we add or import to our scene is loaded from our content browser. I told you about outliner, which gives us a list of all the elements, for example the lights and other stuff as well, but content wise, in terms of objects and maps and textures, everything is loaded from content browser. So this cube that we have here, the spheres, all these objects, okay, I'm talking about the objects. The objects and textures are all loaded from content browser, and you can just see the content browser, which is in the left bottom corner. You can see it with by pressing Control and space like this. And right now, if we go to the window tab, we can see content browser 1 to 4 2, and none of them is checked because we don't want to make our viewport and workspace very busy, but we can add it. We can simply click on one and it's added to our left sidebar. It's docked there. So again, like the previous tabs, I can undock it. I can have it as a separate window. I can change the size. I can put it anywhere that I'm comfortable. So I can just, maybe put it down at the bottom and have it be here, and whenever we want to work with it, we can just make the size larger. All right, let's just go through some of the items in Content Browser real quick. For example, this add button here, I can just add or import any object that I want to my game. And down here I have blueprint that I can add, levels, material. I can just add anything or create anything from scratch in Unreal Engine 2. For example, let me just add this material here. I can add another one, and that's basically how that would work. We don't have anything to do with this Niagara system. Okay, so leave it be. Now on the left, under my project, we have these folders. So basically it's like a library. We have an all folder, everything is placed inside it. We have content and engine. So if you go to content, we have this starter content. Now, if you remember, when I wanted to create a simple project, I had checked this starter content there, and then I get this starter content folder. If I go inside it, and you get a lot of items and things that you can use. For example, in textures, you get all these textures that you can use in your project. And let me just say that for individual purposes, Unreal Engine is a free software and you can use it for your own projects. But if you want to use it for example, making a game, a commercial game that you want to make money with, that's another story, but essentially it's free. All right, now I can just make my own folders and put some of the stuff that I want to use too, but I cannot do it with content, alongside content and engine. I can just go inside one and then I can create a folder. For example, if I go to content, inside content, here if I right click, I can create a new folder. I can call it texture, and then I can just put my own textures in there. I can make another folder and call this material, and I can create some materials and put them inside this folder. This way I can just categorize everything better and I can access everything more easily. Okay, and we also have a very useful search box or field here, and we can search for a texture or a material or whatever that we have in our project, and we can just easily and quickly find it. All right, we got familiar with a lot of these items, but we're going to learn a lot of tricks and stuff that we can use later on. For example, if you want to rename this folder, I can just press F2, rename it, and just save it there. All right, let me just close this content browser window, and whenever I do that, I can just simply access it back with Control and space on my keyboard. All right, let me just show you something real quick. If you've been working with Unreal Engine 4, you can just go to this load layout option and put this on UE4 classic layout, and that way it quickly changes into a UE4 workspace if you're used to that. And if not, you can just put it back on Unreal Engine default edition layout. And this is a useful trick for those of you who have been working with Unreal Engine 4. And by doing that, your UI is changed to the classic mode, and you can just work with that. And also another useful trick is if you have two monitors, you can go to viewports, and if you choose viewport 2, you will get this window, and you can just dedicate that to another monitor, move your stuff, move the items and objects. You can go to the other monitor, work on an object here, and use the second viewport and monitor to your benefit. Okay, so these were some of the items that we needed to know about, and we got familiar with them. And if you have designed your working space in a certain way and you're happy with it, you can save it by saving layout, save layout, and you can just have every project be opened with that layout. All right, that's a wrap for this session. In this one, we'll learn how to set up our working space. In the next one, we're going to learn how to move in our scene, how to work with these items, and how to change angles and such. So stay tuned, and I will see you there.